I actually have a kind of a different story. About when I hit 4th or 5th grade, I stopped reading. I fell out of it. It happens to boys a lot, I hear, at about that age. And I didn't get back into it until I had a teacher in 8th grade hand me a novel and require me to read one of the novels she'd read that she knew about, because I was dodging out of my book reports. I was sneaking around them, and so she wanted to make sure that I was reading a book that she had read, so she made me pick one off of her little rack, and it was a fantasy novel. I'm now a fantasy novelist. I had never read one before. I remember going to, after reading this book, it was called Dragon's Bane, and just loving it, and saying to her, "People write books about dragons? I can't believe this." And she said, "Yeah, there's a whole library full of them." So I went to the library. This was the school library. And one of my favorite memories is looking through the card catalog, because we still had those back then. And I said, well, if there's going to be another book about dragons, maybe it starts with a dragon in the title. And so I took Dragon's Bane and looked at the next card in the catalog. And I still remember just being there. It's one of those memories it's kind of just locked in my mind, and finding Anne McCaffrey's Dragonflight, which is a Hugo Award-winning, fantastic science fiction fantasy novel, and going and just reading through the library's entire stock of whatever fantasy novel they had there. And I really appreciated, the variety that they had there for me to delve into, and that's what turned me into a writer. The librarian, I actually went back to the school just a couple years ago, and I met with a librarian who was a very wonderful person as well, and she would always guide me toward the books that I wanted after I'd fallen into this fantasy thing. She knew which books would appeal to me, and that's why we need good literacy professionals, librarians and teachers, because without somebody pushing me, and I only needed a little push. I was right on the edge already, but someone pushing me and saying, "You can read this big book, Brandon. You will love this big book." Without somebody doing that, I don't know if I would be a writer right now. I've got a 3-year-old. He is just discovering the library. We love to take him, and he's just discovering that he can go and get any book in there he wants, which is I remember that feeling. When first realizing, these are all books I can read? All of these? Any of them? I really particularly am frustrated with the budget cuts that are taking librarians out of schools. This is a big deal because, this was very important to me, my librarian and that teacher together, but without the librarian to be handing the right books to kids, you don't get these powerful readers without somebody to guide them along the way a lot of the time. And I don't think that the people cutting the budgets understand just how vital it is to have somebody there as a resource to the kids. I don't think they understand at all what they're losing. Now, as a parent, I believe parents have the right to choose. This is not something appropriate for my child. But I worry most about things where people are challenging books because of the ideas presented. Not even the content. Content's another issue. Content meaning graphic content or things like this. But when they ban a book because the ideas are ideas you don't like, what you're doing is you're insulating yourself. I have a number of projects going on. One of interest that is a few years out is called The Arithmetist, which is about some, it's really weird. I write these great fantasy books, and what it is it's kids who duel with chalk. They draw circles around themselves on the floor, and then they scribble out these creatures and things that cross the floor to kind of have these little magical duels. And it's about a school for people who have this talent, except the main character is the son of the cleaning lady who gets free tuition to the magical school. He can't do any of this stuff. He doesn't have any of these magical powers. But it's the story of the boy with no magical powers, the son of the cleaning lady, going to this school and kind of getting pulled into this culture and things like this when he actually can't do it. That's coming out in 2013. And then, of course, I also have the last book of The Wheel of Time, Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, which is coming out next year.